We gained about 14,000 followers across the people who were posting.
I had 25,900 total impressions, and I got 9 new email subscribers in 40 days from
That's not very good.
25,000. No, it's not. It's not very good at all.
One guy got retweeted by a top figure in his niche. She actually grew her newsletter by 87.5%. She didn't have a newsletter to write. It was purely LinkedIn.
The burnout factor is real when you start going down that rabbit hole. What would you say was the biggest win then from this challenge?
I don't know. Like, is it even worth it? So what happens when you post on social media every day for 30 days? Well, maybe you get your first newsletter sponsor, or maybe you meet a friend in real life to do co-working together, or maybe you get $1.5 to $2 million of interest for funding your next project. That's what happened. Yeah, those are some of the results that came out of our social challenge that we did last month. And today we're going to recap how it went and some more details for you.
For those who don't know, we had a 30-day social growth challenge in the Growth and Reverse Pro community. Actually, it wasn't even within the Growth and Reverse Pro community. It was public. Anybody could join. There's a small fee to enter. And we ran it from what was supposed to be September 1st to October 1st. We had a little hiccup with some software. We extended it basically September 1st to October 10th. And it was quite an experience where people could grow their social media following on whatever platform really they chose. So we had done a LinkedIn challenge in January of 2025, strictly on LinkedIn. And this challenge, we decided to open it up to the public and to any platform that you want to grow on.
Yeah. So the previous challenge we did was super fun. We had a leaderboard. We had people like competing, which is really hilarious to see. Every week they were like, "Oh, I'm winning. Now I'm in second," etc. We decided to do it again and just kind of open it up to the wider audience, because after the last one, there were so many people commenting on posts saying that they wanted to join and how could they join. And I was like, I should have done a better job of promoting this. So this time we had a little bit more foresight and we decided to open it up. And you just had to pay a quick $100 fee. It wasn't too crazy, but enough to make sure you were actually serious about it. And yeah, it went great. Where do you want to start with this, Dylan?
Well, how many people ended up joining? Like, how many people do we have doing this challenge?
Yes. So I also opened it up. People who had bought the Growth Vault, which is like a series of optimizations and growth tips that I find that I'm constantly adding to. So people who have bought that product, I actually let them in for free. So overall, we had 128 people signed up, but naturally when something is free, you don't take it as seriously. So about 92 people posted regularly.
Okay. And then it also included some people from the Growth and Reverse Pro community too, who opted in to do the contest. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Pro community members pretty much get access to everything.
Yes. Pro community is the place to be for all things. One fee, all things. So it's great. Why don't we start with some high level stats? Because I know in our wrap up call, you shared some really interesting stats on kind of the general contest. So why don't you share those just to get so people can get an idea of the impact of this challenge and what you could expect to potentially get if you join the next time, if there is a next time.
So 92 people, like I said, joined. Through the course of that, we actually, as you alluded to, we tried starting on September 1st. We were using a software tool. It didn't end up working out. So I manually went through and captured everyone's starting date or starting follower count on September 10th. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, some people were posting for like 10 days and didn't actually get credit for it. Sorry. But it was the best I could do. And so we started the follower count on September 10th. And from there until October 10th, cumulatively, that's a fun word. Yeah. We gained about 14,000 followers across the people who were posting. So some folks posted a couple times and only got like 10 followers. Some folks posted every single day, and we can talk through some of those too. But there was a wide range, but 14,301 followers to be exact over 30 days. Yeah.
And there were awards given too for the people who grew or had the biggest increase in followers, and also the people who posted every day. If you posted basically all 30 days, then you got entered into a kind of a raffle to win a prize too.
The winner is taking up the sponsor spot in my newsletter. for a week, which is fun. And then the other ones will get a shout out in the newsletter too. So we'll be seeing those if you're on the email list. You'll be seeing the winners in an upcoming email.
Awesome. One interesting thing I think as well that you figured out too was basically how to gauge who is actually growing their audience at a decent rate. We won't go into too many details, nerdy details on this, but in the past it had been like, oh yeah, whoever gained the most subscribers. Like, well, people who have huge audiences, it's not necessarily fair to the people who didn't.
Right.
So let's go with growth rate. So whoever grows by the most percentage. But then the people who had very small audiences had the advantage because if you had 10 followers and all of a sudden you had 100 at the end, then you grew by a crazy amount. So that handicapped them as opposed to giving people with the bigger audiences an advantage. So tell us what you figured out and how you judged the placement.
So, like you said, typically I use growth rate because it just seems the most normal. But
Hmm.
then there was pro community member Destiny actually was doing it, and she started a Substack from zero. So
Right.
she started with I actually had to put the number 1 in for it to even work because it was I
Yeah.
don't compute. So she had 60 followers, so it went 1 to 60, and it was 7,900% or something insane. And I was like, well, no one's ever going to catch that one. So
Yeah.
then I brainstormed with ChatGPT and it came up with this nerdy logarithmic scale.
Yes.
I don't know how it works, but apparently it's an Excel thing too. And then I asked the people in the community and someone shouted out and said, yes, that's a great way to do it. And I said, okay, cool. It's not just
Nice.
ChatGPT saying that. So
Brings me back to, I think, math 10 in 10th grade, doing math
yes,
and logarithms
some
and
weird
stuff like
calculator with a million buttons on it. Yeah.
Yep. Graphing calculators. Good times.
We are
We're
aging
dating ourselves
ourselves,
a little bit.
Dylan.
Yep. Exactly. I don't know if you have these in front of you, but I have my stats in front of me. I'm going to share some stats so you can, if you have yours pulled up or if you want to. So I counted the 40 days because I did start tracking and start posting on September 1st and went all the way to October 10th. So through that time, I had 25,900 total impressions. And there's people who were getting that many or more impressions on a single post. I have by no means a massive LinkedIn following. I've got about 2,800 followers at this point. Through those 25,900, almost 26,000 impressions, I got 1,471 engagements and 107 new followers. So, not nothing. And from the followers, I tracked in Kit how many new email subscribers I got. Again, not necessarily from the new followers, but just throughout this time period, I was able to track the referral for my new subscribers, and I got 9 new email subscribers in 40 days from
That's not very good.
25,000. No, it's not. It's not very good at all. So this bookends a lot of thoughts I've had about doing stuff like this, and I'll dive into those thoughts maybe later. But it really was like an exercise in futility to some degree because I wondered how much more I would have been able to do had I spent less time worrying about what to post every day and spent more time on bigger scope, bigger picture, deeper quality content, and then extracted from that and posted on LinkedIn with that. So that was just a few numbers I wanted to share with mine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't you shouldn't do a 30-day challenge, et cetera, et cetera. There were still some definite gains. I made some great connections and met some awesome new people who also joined our community after the challenge was over. So all of this was really beneficial, maybe in a non-tangible way. But I thought if you just went from the actual ROI, probably not the biggest win for me.
Yes. I did a terrible job tracking subscribers over this period. I was trying to go download my kit list. It's going to take way too long while we're on this call. But
Right.
I do have my LinkedIn stats pulled up. So throughout the 40 days, I'll just start it on September 1st. I got 179,000 impressions. Yeah, well, it was 3 posts that did that. So it's one of
Right.
those things where
80-20.
you kind of have to, yeah. Most of them did very few, maybe 1,000, but then there were some where it's 3, 4,000, and then the highest one was 21,000.
And what's your following count on LinkedIn right now, if you want to just share for context?
It is 13,470. So not huge.
About 10 times mine.
That's,
So,
no, you're at what, 3,000?
2,800.
So it's only 4 times.
Hey, that's why I got to use that graphing calculator more often.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So over that time period for follower count, if we're going that route instead, well, from the leaderboard, because this is not showing me, I think it was um, 400 followers. So nothing too crazy either. And then subscriber count, it was probably minimal because I wasn't like promoting the newsletter necessarily.
Why would you do that?
And I think I got so burned out with trying to post every day that I wasn't going back an hour later to like optimally time it right to put the link in the comment. And it was not great.
Yeah, it takes a lot to, I think, do this and optimize it and do it really, really well. So we've talked a lot about Tom Alder and other people who are really good at doing these optimizations. Half an hour before you post, make sure you're engaging a bunch, and then you post without a link, and don't be the first comment. Make sure you get people to comment, then comment with a link, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe edit your post to add a link to whatever call to action you want. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this that may be more optimized, but like you said, like the burnout factor is real when you start going down that rabbit hole. It can
Well,
a
let's
lot.
talk about it because Tom Alder, we talk about him a lot. He got to 5,000 subscribers before even launching his newsletter.
Mhm.
He grew, I forget, he started with a 60-day challenge and then he was doing it for 9 months or something like
Yeah.
that. But let's remember, he wasn't doing a podcast. He didn't have a newsletter to write. He didn't have all of this other stuff. It was purely LinkedIn. So
Mhm.
if it's your only channel, maybe you have a little bit more brain power to spend on it. And it was like, you could say he had a full-time job, which is fair and
True.
valid,
Yep.
but this was probably his creative outlet, right? He didn't have like other creative outlets necessarily. So he was like, let me write on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I don't want to not give him credit because that is a ton of work.
Yeah.
I just think there are like seasons for it and there are variations to it.
He definitely was solely focused on, at least from our perspective, from what we saw, he was
Yeah.
very focused on just posting on LinkedIn and doing it consistently. And he maybe was posting on other platforms as well, like copy paste type of style of whether on Twitter or not. But either way, he was very focused on LinkedIn. He wasn't publishing a newsletter like you said. So all of his focus and attention could go into that. So
that's something to think about. But
yeah,
I mean, it was hard. And like, I don't think it was worth it for the subscribers or the followers. I looked at the leaderboard. I had 502 was my final
502.
number,
Okay.
502 that I got.
Okay. What would you say then? What would you say was the biggest win then from this challenge?
I think that the biggest win from doing something like this is that you get to connect with really cool people.
Yeah.
I think that just looking at the wins that the people who did the challenge have had, I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Of course, this was worth it. Who cares if you got 4 followers? But like the one guy posted, you can't see this as a win, but he's like, directly because of posting on LinkedIn last month, I was able to partner with a friend who I hadn't been in contact with for years on a project he's working on. So, I mean, that's going to end up being like, they went out and raised $1 million in funding. That's kind of cool. No, you didn't win, but hey, that's kind of a bigger win.
That is a bigger win.
Yeah.
Than random
A
internet
much
people
bigger
clicking
win.
follow on your profile. Yes, much bigger
Right.
win.
Yeah. And so I think that we can go through more of these wins because I think they're just so fun to look at. But I think that is the most powerful part of this is like the connections you're making, the friendships you're building, and just the people you get to see and talk to and do this alongside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a networking element involved, but it's not like the BNI kind of sort of kind of icky networking, like that goes with that word. This is like,
not great.
hey, these are actually like cool people who are trying to do the same thing we are, like grow their audiences, grow their newsletters and their content, and they're good people to know, and they're supportive, and maybe a collaboration comes from it, or maybe they become a client, or maybe you become their client or a subscriber to their newsletter, who knows. But I think ultimately, like you said, it comes down to building these relationships and getting to know some interesting people in the space, and you never know where that can lead.
And I think with how much I keep hearing people saying they're burnt out on social media, like I don't think I would recommend this route right now unless you're like really excited about a platform. But honestly, I feel like YouTube or I don't know, maybe even Instagram, if you're willing, would be good to do this. But YouTube, it lasts longer. It's evergreen. LinkedIn, yeah, they're starting to show posts that are like a couple weeks old, but it's not anywhere near the lifespan of a YouTube video. So I think if I were personally thinking about where I would put my energy, it would be more on something like YouTube or just like creating better newsletter content and partnering with people like one-on-one.
Yeah, I agree. And I think even if you are posting YouTube videos and you're trying to go there, you still need to promote this and get people to watch those things and let people know that it exists. And yes, you can rely a little bit on the YouTube algorithm, to show it to people, but that can become that content can become what you post on LinkedIn. That can become like your LinkedIn content, right? And I think that was one of my big takeaways was focusing on kind of that keystone, cornerstone content, longer form typically, those insanely valuable pieces of content, if you will, that are going to really move the needle for you when it comes to getting people to read, retaining subscribers. Like they're opening, they're reading, they're like, wow, this is great content. I definitely want to read the next one, and even potentially sharing it with other people. If we focus on that, then we all already have we've got good content that people are enjoying, that they're reading, that they're potentially sharing, and then we could pull from that content and then post it on LinkedIn. So it's like, I feel like doing a social media growth challenge, if you don't already have this kind of backlog of this high quality content, whether it's video or written or whatever it might be, audio, like Adam from our community he pulls all of his
Mhm.
content from his audio podcast. If you don't already have that, then doing a challenge like this might not be the best first step in trying to grow an audience. So that might sound obvious, but it's just becoming clearer and clearer to me. CJ Gustafson has mentioned it before where he won't take a meeting before 1 p.m. And I know we've talked about this, but this just like keeps coming back into my head that you have to have this really good quality content to share so people will actually want to subscribe and read and share it with other people.
He says, I won't take any calls before 1 o'clock because I need to focus on my writing and my podcasting. Otherwise, people won't find me interesting enough to have phone calls with me after 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And it was like a little self-deprecating humor, but like that's a great way to put it.
Yes, it is. And that's where I felt like every morning when I was getting on, and this isn't necessarily the best way to do it. This is the way I was doing it. Do not recommend. Every morning, I'm like, what am I going to write about today for LinkedIn? And it's like, no. This is like backwards. You should be creating that quality content first and pulling from it, and then having something that you can add to LinkedIn on. So I think there's
Well,
something to be
I'm going to
said
push back
about,
on this one.
well, I was just going to say, there's something to be said about using short form content to iterate and get feedback and ideas, see what resonates with people. I totally
Mhm.
see the valid point. But when you already know that your audience is subscribed to you for a certain topic, or you're authority in a space, or you are an expert in some space, then I think you can pull your content from the longer form stuff and then use it for the written, as opposed to just pumping out daily things that may not go anywhere.
I'm still going to push
Push
back
back
on it
though. Push
because
back. Push back.
I have 70 deep dives, and this was still extremely hard for me to do. And so, yes, it's probably like a mental barrier, but there is something to be said about that of like people are just like, "Oh yeah, repurpose stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, but like what do I repurpose? How do I repurpose it? Like how do
Mm-hmm.
I don't know." And if I had some better planning of actually putting the post together before this happened, I probably wouldn't have been scrambling every morning and then,
Yeah.
completely fell off the wagon afterwards. So, yeah. But
So
it sounds easier that way, but I also don't know that that is the only like I don't know. I don't know. Like is it even worth it?
is what even worth it?
Create the long form piece. Yes, that is so super valuable, necessary, etc. But is it even worth it to go back and try and like force it into a LinkedIn box?
I see what you're
That's where I
saying.
struggle.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember all the time that most of the stuff that I've published, long form or short form, most of the people following me or subscribed to my newsletter have not seen. So coming at it from that lens, since you published your first, 8, 10 dozen deep dives, you've grown so dramatically that if you reshared some of those, people will be like, I never knew this even existed, right? So pulling the content from there, I guess I don't see the harm or the reason not to. But if it's a mental barrier, like I don't know how this fits into relevancy in someone's algorithm today, I think you could do it and pull a lesson from there. But I totally get what you're saying with this mental block of I don't know how this works or how this makes sense or where this fits
Well,
or what the
and
point of posting it is if it's not driving people somewhere.
and it's not just that. It's like, okay, so these are 5,000 word articles. What am I pulling? Where am I going?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I doing an outline of the full piece? Am I just pulling one part of it? I don't know. And I'm sure it's just an experimental thing of like figuring that out. But I don't know. The results I'm seeing aren't exactly, it doesn't lead me to want to spend time on it. I will say that. I'd
Have,
rather take that piece and repurpose it into a newsletter or update it and
mm,
repost it and send it out via email or something like that. So,
yeah.
or maybe turn it into a video where I like explain the whole thing.
What did you think about? We just had Adam Shibely, I believe is how you
Yeah,
pronounce his last name,
Shively.
in from the Growth and Verse Pro community, come and actually do a session in the community for us on how he has this like 12-week content flywheel where he repurposes his content. How did that give you ideas or inspiration or anything to repurpose content?
No, I don't know. Like in the moment, I wasn't thinking about it in the lens of my content.
Okay.
So maybe that's I need to go back and like re-listen to it in that state of mind. But I mean, it was a great idea, and like the way he pulls out pieces of it and like shares them 12 weeks later, I think is super smart.
Hmm.
But it was more of like podcast to newsletter, and then he shares stuff on social media.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, what did you take away from that?
I took away kind of exactly what I was saying before, where like Adam would be somebody who would be able to just absolutely crush this 30-day challenge, just in not necessarily like, I'm not saying he would win it, but I'm saying for having content where a lot of people get hung up on, "Oh, I don't know what to post today, or I've run out of ideas, or I'm falling off the wagon." He would not have that problem, right? He has
Yeah.
2 or 3 posts a day that he's just sourced from his podcast that he published 12 weeks ago. He goes, today is week 12. I'm going to go back to week 1 and see what I published that day. There's my post, and I'm going to post it. So he doesn't overthink it, which I think is actually brilliant in some ways. Like, it's so simple. Just, post. A lot of this is consistency. Yes, it does have to be good and has to resonate, but it's working for him. He's getting clients from it. He's getting new listeners, new downloads. He's had over 1 million downloads on his podcast. So there's something to it.
I think his platform is very underrated. And he was in the challenge, but he was the only guy on Threads, so nobody
Right.
knew
Yeah. Yeah.
he was in there.
That's right.
But I love his approach because yes, he says he gets clients, he gets customers, and the best part is like you look at his posts and you're like, how are these working? You're getting like 4 likes. But if one of those people is a potential customer, who cares if it's 4 likes if you're going to get paid for it? So
Yep.
yeah,
I mean, if you get 1 like and that one person turns into a client, and that's the ultimate goal of your content, then 100% hit rate. Like, it's working.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think we get so bogged down with these follower counts, which makes me hate that we used followers as like the metric for winning. But I don't know. It was too hard to do like subscribers or anything like that because I can't see those numbers. I'd have to get them like submitted, if you will. But
That would be challenging. And a lot of self-reporting would have to go on and all that stuff.
yeah, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking that I think there is something deeper. Like we all say, I don't know what to post. I don't want to repurpose. I don't, all that stuff. I don't know if that's actually true. I think there is a lot of mental barriers that happen where it's not like, I don't know how to take my deep dive and put it into a LinkedIn post. It's more of like, is this good enough? Are people going to think this is horrible? And
Mm,
even after going through all that, I think there's still some of that for me. So I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm not consistent enough, so I don't see the results that I'd want to see for it. And so that's why I don't stick with it. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I didn't see a ton of results until halfway through the challenge. And then it spiked. And then I think, I didn't follow through after the 30 days. I fell off at the end of September. So I don't know.
Hmm.
There's something to be said about like hitting momentum. And then you're like, wait, maybe like, let me pump the brakes here. And it's like, well, why? This is what you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you remember why the impetus to this challenge, what that was?
Because I haven't been posting and
No,
we were talking about what was
no.
it?
You were reviewing the first 6 months of how you grew your newsletter.
Oh, yes.
And
That's
it was
right.
from posting all the time, right?
Yeah.
When you were like almost dumb enough not to know better, right? Like, and I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean like you're so
No,
naive and
totally.
new and like excited and motivated. So I think that comes back to what you're just saying about this mental block. It's like now I'm deep into it and I've got this like, curse of knowledge or whatever you want to call it, imposter syndrome, where it's like, well, yeah, I've written about this, but is it any good or will people actually like it? When in the beginning you're just like, hey, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I did a deep dive on these people and here's what I found and I'm sharing it and people are like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny to think about the reason we started this and what do you
Yeah.
think?
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's some level of like the audience has grown, and so that makes it harder to like put out meh content. And like
Mm,
maybe that's the wrong approach to this. I also think there's something to I was growing on Twitter, and Twitter is a very build in public style place. Whereas LinkedIn, I feel like you can post once a day, maybe twice a
yeah.
day, and that's it. And the Twitter just felt so much more community oriented, and LinkedIn
Hmm.
feels very like boxed and siloed. And so I struggle to stick with it because I don't know. I feel like I find my people and then I don't ever see them again. And then I'm like, wait, where'd they go? you
On
know?
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Whereas on
Yeah.
Twitter, I feel like it's easier to like keep track of people that you were engaging with and enjoyed their content and that kind of thing. So
Mm,
I don't know. It's a mix,
damn algorithms.
right?
Yeah,
Not
I
cool,
hear that.
guys.
I hear that. I think, yeah, I'd be curious to see, like, you say, like, Twitter, you could just kind of post whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, to some degree. It didn't matter. You didn't feel bad if you had 3 tweets in a day or 12 tweets in an hour. A lot of that was serving the algorithm and helping you in a lot of ways, right? Whereas I can see where the hesitance comes on LinkedIn, and I'm curious to challenge what happens if I post like 3 times a day for like a week. But like, what would happen? Am I actually going to get punished by the algorithm? I wonder what would come of that.
I don't know. Try it
Yeah,
out. See what
try it out.
happens. Um,
Yeah. Okay, so
I,
unless you have some more to add. I was going to ask
No,
you a
I'm just
question.
scrolling back through Twitter and I'm like, I
Mm,
just love this interface more. And I feel like it was faster. Like LinkedIn, you post something and like you don't get the dopamine hit until like 10, 20, maybe an
yep.
hour in.
Hmm.
With Twitter, it was like almost immediate. There'd be like, or something like that. So I have to
Retweet,
wonder
comment.
if
Yeah.
that, yeah, if that helped me stay consistent there. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
probably.
thanks
I
for the
mean,
therapy session, Dylan.
you're welcome. So one of the questions I've written down here is, will we do this again?
Well, after we just said all of that, I don't know. I love the concept of a challenge. I love getting people together and working towards a goal, but I don't know that social media is the goal.
I think you know that it's not the goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
What if there's a content challenge that we could do? More like, yeah, we should probably not brainstorm this on live on the podcast, but I guess there's something to what we're both saying where for me, what I realized was like, I need to actually create the content worth sharing on social media first before I just try to like create something for social media. So that's where my head is going, is like not a 30-day challenge necessarily, because you don't want to publish like a daily long form piece of content, but something along those lines where it's like, okay, let's focus on the content that's really going to actually move the needle that we can then pull from to publish on social media where we want to.
yeah, I think either that or do like a subscriber type of challenge where there's no leaderboard. We're not trying to like capture everybody's growth. But I've been listening to a lot of James Clear content lately, and he
Yeah.
keeps talking about instead of outcome based goals of like, I want to hit 10,000 subscribers, think of like input based
Input.
goals of
Yeah.
like, I'm a writer or I'm the type of person that writes every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that could be 250 words. Maybe you don't publish it, but I'm wondering if there's something of focusing on
The
the
inputs.
subscriber growth, whereas inputs, or I'll share like 10 ways that I think you get your first 100 subscribers and have at it. We'll do a 7-day challenge. Justin Moore recently did a sponsorship challenge.
Mm.
And it was a 7-day challenge. And he said it was great because it was short enough that people stayed focused, they were interested, but it was long enough that they actually got a result. So I
Yeah.
have to wonder if there's something around that. Let's get your next 1,000 subscribers or 100 subscribers or whatever the number is.
Doesn't that conflict with what you just said about like doing the inputs though, focusing on that?
Yeah, right. So back to that. I think if there are like 3 main ways that people should try to grow their newsletter, right? Like 3 things that I think can really help you get there. Maybe it's like pick one of those and do that for 7 days, or maybe we pick one. Like we tried to do the cross promotions challenge of like
Yeah.
partnering with other newsletters, and that just turned into the 30 days of growth and
Yeah.
whatever. It wasn't so maybe it's something like that, or I don't know.
Okay. Well, we got a bit to think
We'll
about.
brainstorm it. If you have ideas, let us know.
Yeah. The aim would be a January 2026 sort of thing, turn of the calendar. That's what we did last year. Not guaranteed, but I know that's what we were eyeing up. right now. But so we've got a little bit of time to think about this. But any
Maybe
any
it's like
ideas would be great.
7 days to, maybe it's not subscriber growth. Maybe it's like optimizing or cleaning your list, or I don't know, cleaning up
Mm,
your kid account or something
yeah.
for those people who have 9,000 tags like I do.
Yes. Yeah, that could help.
Yeah.
My last question is, what would make this challenge a success in your mind? I think you talked about what made it a success, but I have this written down, so I'm just going to ask you, what would make this challenge a success?
The one that we just did?
Yeah, or a future challenge even.
Honestly, I just think getting people moving. Like there's
Yeah.
something to be said about momentum, and like if you can just get over the hump of like doing the thing a few times in a row, like I think there's so much power in that, because we get ourselves stuck and we're like, oh, it's gonna be so hard. Like even, okay, this is like a personal thing, but I hate making phone calls to the point where like I will not do it. And so I will put off calling people back for weeks because I'm like, oh, or like making a doctor's appointment, forget about it. I'm like,
Oh
oh, it's gonna
no.
be so bad. And then like you actually do it and it takes 60 seconds and you're like, why did I put that off for 2 weeks?
Yep.
So I think there is something like similar in the business space where it's like, oh, this seems so hard, but it's really not. You just got to
No.
hit publish or open the thing or start writing or whatever it is.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why like Ship 30 for 30 was so, I don't know, such a game changer for a lot of people, is because it's like you're going to write something short, but you're going to publish it that day and then you do it for 30 days. And to some degree, it didn't really matter what you wrote. It was the fact that you were actually like spurred into action to do it. Yeah, you don't want to just write and publish trash, but the point was like to get that writing muscle and that habit built in where you're doing it every day, and thinking about it as well, like actually thinking about what you could create content from, or what was interesting, what was a good story you could share, that sort of thing. I think getting your mind in that headspace, or getting into the habit of like thinking about those things in your day-to-day life, or when you're online, on LinkedIn, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on whatever website you're on, and thinking about what can I learn from this, or is this for sharing, or do I have an opinion on it, or does this like is this a signal for something that I've already written, or does it validate something I've already been thinking about? So I think that can be also just like a really important headspace that we can get into, or that we should get into, if we want to do more stuff like this.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would like to call out some people's wins if we
Let's do it.
can. Okay. One guy got retweeted by a top figure in his niche, which was
Nah,
this other guy has like hundreds of thousands of followers. This was day one, I think. It was early.
love
Tara
it.
got her first Substack subscriber, and she actually has now, I think she's over like 200 or 300 in the last 45 days, which is pretty
Amazing.
cool. Yeah, awesome. I know Caitlin actually posted something outside of her norm, which was like more personal, but went crazy viral for her. Like hundreds and maybe even over 1,000 likes on that post, which
Nice.
was pretty wild. Sachin actually hit a MRR goal, so like made a certain amount of money in a month on day 3. Like after just
Wow.
posting for 4 consecutive days, closed a client, which is pretty cool. I know Becky said she actually grew her newsletter by 87.5%, which is pretty cool
Mm-hmm.
over the last month. Do you remember any good ones?
Somebody got
Oh,
shouted out by former colleagues as well, which wasn't like a viral win, but it really meant a lot to her. I think that was Rachel.
yeah, Rachel got shouted
Yeah.
out by 2 top execs at Adobe,
Yeah.
which is like, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm so excited to see these because it's so fun that people took this and actually started building relationships and doing the thing and learning and
Mm-hmm.
experimenting, getting subscribers, making money, and just growing their business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool. Really cool to see, and that you had a hand in that, just in like bringing them together at the very least, right? Is pretty fun. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that feels pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess we should call out our winners at this
We
point,
should.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the winners of the 30 days of growth, Alejandra Rojas came in 3rd place. She grew her following from 2,270 to just about 2,700 which was pretty crazy, about 19% growth, which in a 30-day time span is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Naz, who I've been interacting with since the early days of Growth in Reverse on Twitter, he grew his followers by over 1,200. And then Tom Orbach, who is a member of the Growth in Reverse Pro community. I love having him in there. He always shares such good stuff.
And
He grew
podcast,
his
sorry, I was gonna say podcast alumni
yes,
as well. He's been on our
totally.
podcast. Yeah.
Yes, that was a good one. He grew his followers by a whopping 3,200. That's
Dang.
crazy.
That's more than 100 a
Yeah,
day.
that's more than 100
Wait,
a
should I
day.
get my graphing calculator and make sure that math is right?
Log,
Yeah.
cosine. Yes.
Wow.
So congrats to those three. Excited to share their work in an upcoming newsletter. Maybe you'll see us in another challenge here in a few months.
And if this sounds like fun, let us know if it's something you'd be interested in. And I think it is just you can like dive really deep into this sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, it can be just a fun thing to do. Just a kick in the
Yeah.
butt to post on social if that's what you want to do and you have the wherewithal and the mindset to do it, then yeah, it doesn't have to be like this huge strategic endeavor. It could just be something you want to get more proactive with. So this is a good excuse to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these are fun. I just like seeing all the things people are doing and who's interacting with who. Alejandra and Laura, who was also in the
Yeah.
challenge, actually met in person to come to one of our co-working events because we were doing those every Monday too.
Yeah.
And they both showed up and I was like, hey guys, this is fun. And they were like, we're actually in the same coffee shop. And I was like, what? And they like turned their cameras around and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
And they had
That was
they
pretty
didn't know
cool.
each other in real life. They had never met before.
No.
They had come together because of this challenge and then actually
Mhm.
literally came together in real life because of the challenge, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's super fun.
And that goes back to the thing you were saying earlier about the power of this is connecting with people too. So there's a lot of additional benefits than just like growing your followers.
I want to do something like this again, even if it's not social growth. Maybe it will be. Maybe I'll come back to it in 3 months and be like, well, all right, let's do it again.
Yeah. It could be a two-part, maybe you do a two-part challenge where it's like, okay, build out your content library for 30 days and then try a social growth project, maybe not the next 30 days, but maybe it is, so that people actually have some good ammo to use, like me. I'm really talking to myself here. So people have some good ammo to use for their content for the following 30 days. That could be kind of fun.
That would be fun. Yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
don't even post. Maybe it's like, let's just build out content that we can
Yeah.
post.
Mm-hmm. And if there's a way you need to keep yourself accountable, we could figure that out too. But yeah, that could be fun. That'd be valuable.
I think so too. All right, we'll brainstorm it more.
Okay. Should we call it?
Yeah, let's call it. I think that's a good one. Always good to reflect on stuff like this.
It is. It is.
All right, see you next time.